Hey, what's going on? So, this is a lot of videos I got to catch up to. I've been busy, but this video I want to talk about taking correction in a relationship. And before I jump into it, I want to share some scriptures when I was working on this chapter that I found useful and giving some guidance for what this whole thing looks like. The first one was Proverbs 15:1, and it talked about how a gentle answer turns away wrath. That's deep enough. I'm gonna need you to go read that, and you'll see why it's so important. But a harsh word stirs up anger. Next one was First Corinthians 13:4 and 7, where it talks about love is patient, love is kind. Romans 15:1 and 2 talks about we who are strong ought to bear with the fallings of the weak, right? So that's going to be key for what we talk about. And then, of course, Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I am with you. So let's jump into it. Taking correction in a relationship is one of those things that can easily be an issue if you're not open, if you're not used to it, and if you simply feel like you already have all the answers, right? It can be devastating to your relationship. And I think that one of the first things is I watched this video this young lady was doing talking about how if you got a good man, you better keep him, right? So shout out to all the good men out there, right? If you got a good man, you better keep them. I think the same thing applies to if you got a good woman, you better keep her, right? And work on that relationship. See what can come out of it and have a goal of togetherness, but taking correction is a part of it. You're going to learn some things about that person. That person's going to learn some things about you that you may not agree with. They're going to do some things that you may not agree with. And they're going to do some things wrong, right? And in a sense, like I like connections where I love hearing stories where young ladies talk about how they love their husband because their husband helps them with coaching, mentoring in certain specific areas, right? May not be every area, but they know the areas that he's strong in that they make up for them, right? And it's a benefit. It's not necessarily a lacking, right? It's a benefit. Look, I can be strong in this area, but I choose to have a partner that can help me be stronger or they can take on that role. So no one is perfect. Understand that relationships are about growth and about understanding. So if you're in a relationship or you're in that phase, considering relationship dating, and you're not open to corrections or different opinions, then you're probably in the wrong field, right? Maybe you should make a decision to stay alone for a little bit longer so you can figure out, how you want to be approached when something is not necessarily right. Um, that growth and understanding part is so important. The more and more I write in this book and I learn for myself, I'm a student to the game. Um, I haven't always been perfect. Definitely not always had the perfect relationships. Um, but I took on an understanding that because it's about growth and understanding that I had to approach with a form of openness. Um, because taking correction actually strengthens your bond, right? Imagine me understanding or having that feeling of an area and being complete because I know my partner has that. Like she holds this down for me. I'm responsible for these things and I hold those things down for her. She doesn't have to think twice about them. She doesn't have to worry about them, question them. She knows that if those are my responsibilities, I'm gonna be there for her, whether it's protection of the home or, whether I'm handling the bills or she's handling the books or whatever the case may be, right? And then where there's areas where we have error or disagreement, we can both take constructive criticism, right? Because it's not about just negative criticism. It's about constructive feedback that's going to enhance the growth in your relationship. So first thing I want you to do when you're taking on taking correction is take a deep breath, right? Um, Understand that you are two different people. You probably have two very different backgrounds. You were raised different. You have two different sets of experience. Um, and that is what makes it so beautiful. That diverse background, those differences that you have is what makes it so beautiful because you're trying to come to one page and find a way that your togetherness can move you forward in life. So take a deep breath, understand that you're human, right? The next thing I want you to do is consider the viewpoint, right? Too many times we have these conversations, especially when taking on criticism, and you want to fall to, I've dealt with this even at work, right? That's the way I've always done it. Right. That doesn't mean it's right. As a matter of fact, that probably means it's wrong. It's just easy and you keep doing the same thing. Right. So understand that there's different viewpoints, there's different ways of doing things, right? And if you think while this person is talking, you need to be performing active listening, right? Don't tune them out because you're already trying to prepare your response. You're trying to prepare your answer and tell them why you think they're wrong. So you're missing half of what's being put out. I've been in situations where the person's attitude was just so bad. It was so heavy. They weren't hearing nothing I was giving. And it took me listening to my mentor to say, hey, she's not listening. Like, it's not, you get what I'm saying? So understand that you don't want to fall into that thing. You know, there's a lot of sayings, and I want to be careful how I say it. But once you're gone, once you're in the dirt and moved on, you know, to your next journey, you know, that's when you probably aren't taking many people's opinions, thoughts, and you're not doing no more thinking for yourself either. While you're on this side of the earth, you should be open to listening to other ways, right? Considering other ways, strategizing, and considering different viewpoints. The next thing is you want to assume positive intent, right? I don't know why this gets confused so much, and I'm excited about this chapter because it's a reminder of people that criticism comes from love. Like if I'm doing something and let's say you have an attitude, you're angry about something, and I still fulfill my responsibilities, right? It's all over social media where, you know, they have this little joke thing where, oh, she's mad at me, but I'm still caring for her. I'm still loving for her. I'm still going in there taking care of the children, right? I'm still taking care of the, you know, going to work the next morning. You know, I'm not taking off because you're mad. I'm going to sit beside you mad. No, life still goes on, right? So understand that I'm here and I'm doing those things out of love. That's the love that I have for you. So if there's any constructive criticism going, it's coming from a place of love because I want us to grow. I want us to help each other. I want us to endure through our tough times together. So assume that it's positive intent. Assume that this is probably coming from a place, and I need to appreciate that, right? Maybe you can respond with something like, listen, I understand that's important to you. Right. And I think I get what you're saying. Right. And then you move into that next part of reflection. Right. And you start thinking and you start going, man, I didn't notice I did it like that. Or I didn't notice I sounded like that. Or I came off that harsh in that moment. Or, you know, that reflection is important. Right. Another big one is going to be seek clarity and avoid miscommunication and misinterpretation. If you don't understand that constructive criticism that's coming, say that. Hey, listen, I appreciate that you're trying to tell me something. I really don't understand what you're saying. Can you explain it in a different way? Is there any way that you could break that down a little bit or give me a better example, right? Don't walk away from that conversation mad because you didn't even understand what was being put out in the first place, right? Or what that person was, the feedback that they were trying to give you. This was super important. You need to express gratitude for the feedback. You know, in the military, you know, I worked at MOS that they used to call the most thankless MOS in the Army, right? And it means the world to people, or to me especially, and I'm sure a lot of other people. Sometimes just hearing the word thank you, and maybe if it's not as far as saying thank you, showing your gratitude or your appreciation. Listen, I appreciate that feedback. I really do. I understand that, you know, you may be a little bit more passionate about that piece than I am, but I heard you. I appreciate it, right? It's the same thing like in your career, in your life, you know, you can show thank you in so many different ways, right? Saying it is great too. You know what I'm saying? If you just want to throw it out there, hey, thanks, then that's awesome. But you can also show it in some different ways. That means a lot for the person that's taking the time to give you some constructive criticism and some feedback in line with taking correction, because they're doing it to help. They're doing it out of love, and it's coming from a pure and genuine place. Remember that the goal is to work on change together, right? So if you're taking some correction, you should feel free and open to ask them, well, hey, listen, next time, help me with that. You know, show me a better way to do that. Walk me through it. Let's do it together, right? And then that person may learn some things too. And then when it's your turn, their turn to reverse that correction on something different, whatever the case may be, they also see what's proper in responding to that. And the last thing is going to be knowing when to let go, right? I'm smiling because if you know me, you know I want to talk about it, right? And I think the knowing when to let go piece, or the point that I'm getting at is, once you take that correction, you appreciate it. You may not like it in that moment. You may not feel how that person feels. You may disagree, right? Sometimes things are just not that important to have a long fight over. Definitely not a fight, but it's not worth the conflict, right? So if you don't like the way I did XYZ, and I hear that you're passionate about it, maybe I gave a little bit of feedback and it was starting to turn the conversation into something totally different. Yeah, I'm letting it go. You know what? It's all good. You're right. Right? So be mindful of that. There is a letting go point, right? And it doesn't always have to be, you give so much correction. I don't want to do this no more. Okay, cool. You just gotta go and get the correction from somewhere else, right? Especially if it's something that is a problem, right? That you've been having for years anyway, and now you're upset because I've commented on that same problem. Well, we don't, figure things out, and you take that problem to the next situation. How many times you gonna go through that cycle, right? So be mindful, right? That person may be in your life in that moment for a reason, and they may point out some things that may help you, and then maybe that'll be your Cupid momentum that you need to lead to, your next situation, if that's the situation you're in. I don't want to see nobody break up. I say, unless it makes sense, right? Work on it, but stand on point. Taking correction is a big thing, right? I'm almost finished with this book, I'm telling you, but it's good stuff like this that keep coming up. So I just wanted to share this about taking correction, y'all. Hope this helps. Thanks.